Yes, now that those who refuse to listen to NINAS when we said leave elections alone have gone to the election and seen the damage. Many have turned back to the song, the wrong song they were singing before the election. Oh, restructuring that has no definition. But it has gotten even more sinister. Can we recall that on the day the Supreme Court delivered its sacrilegious verdict, 26 October, that the South and Middle Belt Leadership Forum somehow converged in Abuja by coincidence and began to talk about restructuring that now has to happen. The same people that went to support the election under that Constitution of '99 just a few months back, in all the 3 years from 2020, we were saying to everybody, going to this election will plunge Nigeria deeper into darkness. They blocked their ears. And then everything has gone wrong. They come back by some magic, by some coincidence. They were in Abuja on the day of a Supreme Court decision. It takes being blind not to see that it is not a coincidence. Something somewhere, somebody that knew that that judgment will come that day must have there's no coincidence in their presence in Abuja on that day. Why do we say so? We who diagnosed correctly what the problem was all the while, and who distilled what the solutions could be and deployed by way of the constitutional force majeure, that was a culmination of series of processes, mass-based processes, that dates back to Pronaco, that became the MNN, that went to court in 2007 to say that this constitution is illegitimate, challenging the basis on account of fraud and forgery of the 1999 constitution. Since 2007, rallying the peoples of Nigeria into solemn assemblies by which they repudiated that constitution. The Lower Niger, the Yoruba, the Middle Belt, 2015, 2017, 2018. And then coming in the Lagos Eminent Declaration of 2011, June 30th. You can Google all of this. Google MNN Lagos Declaration 2011. So you can see how clearly articulated these problems that are still haunting us and tormenting us today they were at that time by this alliance, the NINAS you now know. And so we can, without fear of contradiction, declare that we know what to do. We have the body of knowledge more than anybody else in this land, more than any group else in this land. We have a template that was painstakingly developed, not in isolation, by the involvement of the peoples of Nigeria across the length and breadth of Nigeria, that can now be used to solve the problem we have to solve now, which some people, most people call restructuring. What is that restructuring? The South and Middle Belt Leadership Forum is working with the system to dilute what needs to be done. They do not want the first stage of the renegotiation of this union. They want to begin with a writing of constitution instead of discussion that will lead to writing. Where Nigeria is now, it needs a renegotiation, a reconfiguration, and the reconstruction of its constitutional arrangements. I repeat, Nigeria must now come to a grand renegotiation of the constitutional arrangement, a grand reconfiguration, and a grand reconstruction, failing which we must get ahead with the dissolution as a matter of urgency. We have to dissolve the stupid union that's not working for anybody, the toxic union that is feeding on the blood of its constituents. And so the restructuring that the South and Middle Belt Leadership Forum is canvassing through the back door, talking about the 2014, the report of 2014 National Conference. Those who are conscious in this country will know that we led the charge on what became the 2014 conference. Thank goodness President Jonathan is still very much alive, and people who worked with him in that period. We were directly involved in what became the conference of 2014. But why were we absent from the conference? The modalities we had canvassed were changed at the last minute. The modalities we have in this constitutional force majeure prescription, that's the 5-point proposition of the constitutional force majeure that we eventually had to roll out in December of 2020. Those 5 points contains this two-stage process by which that union renegotiation and reconstruction, renegotiation in the sense that we must accept that we have not made this constitution that is prevailing. And the first order of business, like South Africa did with apartheid constitution, is to put it aside. In putting it aside, we're not anarchists. And so we say, transitioning. Let us accept that we have something we must stop to do. We have to reset our union if we are not working to dissolve it right now. And so it is in accepting that it is a lie that we made the Constitution of 1990. We must accept that we did not make, we did not meet, we did not discuss, we did not agree, we did not enact. When we accept that, we put that document aside. Those in government house can remain on nominal basis. Our quarrel, we have said it time and over, our quarrel is all with the people in government house. They are the least of our problems. If the problem is who is in government house, it won't take any group of 2-3 people can sack a government. We saw Sajendo do it. We saw how many times in Nigeria, Joseph Garba, even Gideon Oka came almost finishing it. Anybody can go and sack a government. That's not what we are discussing. Sacking government is not what the target is. It is the constitution that erected all of the mess we are seeing that we are after. And so those in government house, within the context of our prescription, to tell you the difference between the restructuring that the South and Middle Belt Leadership Forum is canvassing and the one that NINAS is. The purpose of this broadcast is to tell everybody that it is not the same. They are trying to sell a dummy to you. They are trying to sell the dummy of a 2014 report. The 2014 conference, the first decision that was taken on the floor of that conference was that they will not visit the foundation. Go and check the records. Professor Bolaji Akeyemi is still alive. Matthew Kuka is still alive. All of those who attended Professor Akin Oyebode is still alive. All of those who attended that conference will recollect that the first decision taken on the floor of the conference itself was that they will not visit the foundation upon which Nigeria was erected. Meaning that the very purpose, and I speak from a privileged position in this discussion. I happen to know how that decision to, call the conference was reached. But the modalities that we had canvassed were jettisoned by people who wanted to retain what was there before. And so the, the mandate, the terms of reference that was now given to the conference was one in which the outcome of the conference, whatever they decide, will be integrated into our constitution, into the 1999 constitution. That was the reason myself and my team, my organization, that was the reason our organization did not feature in the conference at all. And we told them that whatever they will do will fail because they have not called a meeting, that the conference should be strictly by the owners of the sovereignties confiscated into the Union Nigeria. It must be the Yoruba armed with their sovereignty and their land going to discuss with the Ijaw armed with the Ijaw sovereignty and Ijaw land and water. With Tiv sitting in Tiv land armed with their sovereignty. It is incoming as the owners of the sovereignties that they will decide in the first stage, because NINAS says 2 stages. Anything short of that, no kind of meeting will produce any kind of thing that will become constitution, no matter how the government will fight it, no matter how the South and Middle Belt Leadership Forum or any of the other confused groups that refuse to learn in private that sovereignty belongs to the people. It is not government that will come to dictate constitution to them. You generate what becomes constitution by a meeting of the constituents in which they will first decide to be in union. That's the first decision. We, the people, having firmly and solemnly resolved to live in unity as one indivisible and indissoluble country. How do you come about that if you do not call a meeting of the owners of the sovereignty? The British evaded it. The military evaded it. Obasanjo's conference evaded it. That was why it failed in 2005. Jonathan's conference would have succeeded, but the modalities that would have brought us to that got changed. So we pulled back to see how they are going to hand down constitution from inviting their friends to come and discuss other things, but the main reason the conference was convened. And to tell us that Jonathan that convened the conference knew exactly what he had mandated. We remember the day the mother of Sullivan Chime, then governor of Enugu, the day the mother of Sullivan Chime was being buried in Udi. That was the period we were putting pressure on President Jonathan to call a meeting of the owners of Nigeria. We showed him evidence of what was in the background, what the British had done, what had happened since the Lancaster House meetings, through the 60s, through the war, through the Constituent Assembly of 1977. It was Murtala Mohammed that commissioned it. Having seen all of that, Jonathan then declared in Udi that we have a problem that goes all the way to the foundations in 1914, and that we now need to find a way to go and look at what went into the foundations of Nigeria, both in 1914 and 1960. He says so in Udi, in the midst of the gathering of the multitudes that had come to pay their last respects to the woman that was being buried. If you take it from there to what now emerged from the Femi Okurumu committee as recommendation, for which reason we went to TV to say this recommendation is a beginning of the journey to nowhere. Okay, you say you want to create a one state here and there. We'll now end up with 42 states. Is that what will solve the problem of the owners of the sovereignty not discussing? Why do you think you can bypass them forever? What if they exercise their right to self-determination without reference to you? You sit on their sovereignty, sit in Abuja, the refuge camp of regional renegades. For 55 since after Aburi, we have been waiting to do this discussion to restore the federation. Government after government, just dancing around it. Look at what the union has become. Young people are running away for their lives. And you still do not think it has come to where we have to speak the truth to ourselves and do what needs to be done to solve the problem. That restructuring that cannot be defined collectively is not going to be allowed to be started. All of those who are thinking that it is to smuggle some information to president and then they all come and bring report of 2014. The reason we reject the report of 2014 is that it did not discuss what Jonathan convened the conference to discuss. And it was the decision of that conference not to discuss it. But they turned it round to say it was Jonathan that gave them no-go area. Jonathan did not give nobody no-go area. It was the conference itself that decided that they will not visit the foundation of the union. And so everything else they discussed. The 600 recommendations. How can you have a constitution of 318 sections that will now have 600 plus recommendation, things that will have to be amended? And I asked them, which constitution do you want to amend? The fraud of 99, do you amend a forgery? Why didn't you amend Tinubu's Chicago University certificate? So that if the name of the president was wrongly written, we remove it and put the new name. Why were we complaining that there was forgery? Our constitution is a forgery. The 1999 constitution of Nigeria is a forgery to the extent that it says we the people, meaning the constituent components, the owners of the lands, the Ijaw, the Ogoni, the Yoruba, who own the sovereignties that are aggregated. You put their signature on a document they know nothing about. You are ruining their lives. You seize their economic assets. You are pointing guns at them. You dilapidate their environment. Exclude them from everything by awarding licenses to people you choose. Otherwise, tell me how Dangote became the owner of all the concessions he controls. Remove those concessions and see what is left of that Africa's richest man. That's what we are building upon. It's not sustainable. Those who are suffering from that lopsided arrangement, that arrangement that's upside down, that arrangement we cannot discuss, those who are suffering from it owe it an urgent duty to destroy that construction. That Nigeria that is being constructed on the architecture of unitary constitution, I tell you, more than 75% of those who you are thinking are building with you are actually there to pull down. I am one of those who will do whatever it will take to pull down that construction so that the rest of the madmen can come down under the rubble of it. That constitution is going down, and it's going down with all the institutions anchored on it. If we do not find the common sense to stop so far, what NINAS did on the 20th, on the 16th of December in 2020 was a stop work order. Can you see it? Stop work on the basis of the constitution that is a fraud, that hijacked our sovereignty and our assets, that has ruined our lives and exposed us to extermination. That's what that constitution is doing. That Nigeria has become the poverty capital of the world is on account of that constitution. And all of those who swear to defend and uphold it, all of those who subscribe to it, including all the political parties, PDP, APC, Labour Party, all of them subscribe to that constitution. And so they are the enemy number one of the people, ahead of everybody else, no matter how they pretend, without exception. And so we must now accept that we have not made any constitution. Those who are trying to market 2014 report as what has to be processed into constitution, and then National Assembly. The National Assembly is committing treason against the rest of us by joining Absalom Abubakar, who imposed that constitution in 1999 to hold it as the basis of union. And they sit in Abuja talking about amendment into it, talking about restructuring that will revolve around the constitution. You create one state more, so everybody has 7 states. How does that address the question of we have not met to agree to submit our sovereignty? That is the first question that has to be answered, and if we cannot answer it, the union is dead and gone. That union defined by that constitution is dead and gone. If you doubt me, go and ask Professor Awolu Yadudu, who said that the constitutional force majeure that we were going to activate will unhinge the legal basis of the Federation of Nigeria. He thought the government would be able to stop it. The government did not, could not, was not in any position to stop us from saying that we can't continue in this union of death. That was what, and therefore, as the owners of the sovereignties, we did declare a union dispute. We gave a notice of 90 days, 90 straight days, to a deaf and dumb government led by Muhammadu Buhari. But because guns were hanging all around him, he thought it was matter for gun. The issue we're discussing is far above the question of what gun, what is the meaning of gun in the circumstance? When it is by that pretext that we authorize you, that you now seize control, exclusive control of guns in the land. Is it not the constitution that says arms and ammunition belong to federal government? What is federal government? Which federation? Under this fraud, the owners of the sovereignties are not bothered with all the election you went to do. You wasted your time. We told you. Has the election not come and gone now? Has anything changed? Is that constitution not still there? Are the sovereignties of the people not increasing? Have they lost their sovereignty because you went to election? They have not. And so, the reason we are not going to touch anything from that conference of 2014 is that it did not address the basic question of who are the ones federating. We must identify the sub-nationalities. The Igbo, the Ijaw, the Anang, the Efik, the Ogoni, the Yoruba that will federate, the owners of the land. They must agree among themselves to form a union. They must be the one defining both the formations and the delineation of rights and responsibilities in that union. Anything short of that is just waiting for the House of Lugard to collapse on the obdurate operators of the unitary constitution imposed on a federal union. We stop there.